Hello, hello mga kameta! Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Kamusta kayo dyan? Ito na, officially, nagiging Maharlika Republic na po tayo. Napasa ng ating mga napakagaling, napakahusay na mga mambabatas ang itong panghenyong initiative na to, itong Maharlika Fund. Sigurado sa pangalan pa lang mga kameta, itong Maharlika Fund will attract all sorts of positive, superlative reaction from investors, informed journalists, experts, leaders all around the world. Kasi of course, alam naman natin yung kasaysayan ng Maharlika, di ba? The best yan. So ngayon, excited na tayo guys. Magla-launch tayo ng potentially one of the smallest sovereign wealth funds out there in the world. Nothing compared to the $1 trillion, $500 billion, $600 billion. Medyo baka Ghana level lang yung ano natin. Yung Maharlika Fund natin. Pero, of course, ayon sa proponents na Maharlika Fund, mga kameta, ito na. Meron na tayong very, very effective vehicle for raising necessary funds to build infrastructure. Meron pa daw isang pag-aaral na sinasabi na up to 35,000 jobs daw makikreate dahil sa Maharlika Fund. Like, wow, very impressive. Very impressive, mga kameta. So, katulad ng sinabi natin kahapon, ang kailangan talaga ng Pilipinas is actually a good governance fund. Because alam natin, pag nag-aral kayo ng basic macroeconomic policy, nag-aaral kayo ng basic data studies on foreign direct investments, kung nag-aaral po tayo ng modern governance, malalaman nyo guys na if we cut down corruption, we cut down red tape, if we deal with trap of politics, if we create a degree of credibility pagdating sa international markets, with the independence of our courts, with the reliability of our political institutions, with the integrity and cleanliness and competence of our leaders, then siguradong sobrang laking mga investments na pwedeng pumasok sa Pilipinas. Because one reason na maraming hindi nag-invest sa Pilipinas, among others, of course, there's logistics, there's geography, maraming factors. But one big reason, mga kameta, is regulatory headache, nightmare na meron dito sa Pilipinas. At kasama dyan yung issues ng corruption, paiba-ibang batas, paiba-ibang implementation ng batas, paiba-iba yung implementation ng batas, paiba-iba, sinasabi ng iba na rates ng mga ibang politiko at different levels, gusto pa lang dagdagan ng iba na gawing federal. So, for anyone who was bothered to actually understand the basics of the conundrum of the Philippines pagdating sa foreign direct investments, malalaman talaga natin mga kameta na isang sa pinakamalalaking problema sa Pilipinas is absence of full-fledged rule of law. Now, we have made some good strides in recent months. In fairness naman, over the past years, we have seen that there's more and more rulings in favor of people who face all sorts of injustices and mumbo-jumbo cases in the past. I'm talking about Leila de Lima, I'm talking about Maria Ressa, among others. So there have been good moves in the right direction over the past year on many fronts. We give credit where credit is due. But the reality is, mga kameta, if tinignan mo yung rankings ng Philippines sa corruption, yung rankings ng Philippines sa red tape, sa ease of doing business by the World Bank, ang laki ng problema ng Pilipinas, mga kameta. We don't punch anywhere close to our actual weight. So if you look at, for instance, indicators like, for instance, titingnan mo yung indicators like economic competitiveness ng Pilipinas. Ang laki ng potential ng Philippines to be easily among the 50 most competitive economies on earth. And yet, kung titignan mo yung corruption problem, tignan mo yung press freedom problem, tignan mo yung ease of doing business problem, medyo nasa 70-80 above na yung rankings ng Philippines. No? If you put more and more countries, obviously our ranking is better if you only put 40 countries in the list, diba? But you can clearly see that the Philippines is 70th, 80th percentile, to be statistical about it, pagdating sa potential, but it's around 50th percentile in terms of actual performance, getting investments, etc. So there's a big differential between the actual potential of the Philippines and the ability of the Philippines to actually optimize that, maximize that. At yung isang malaking problema dyan, mga kameta, is good governance. Now, speaking of good governance, panahon pa ito ni Tatay Digong, ilan beses natin nakita na yung office ni former duly elected Vice President and the first runner-up in last year's presidential elections, Attorney Leni Robredo, we saw that on multiple occasions. Panon panidigong yan ha. Panon panidigong yan, hindi panon ng mga yan. Panon panidigong nakita natin na ilan beses nag-top yung office of the Vice President pagdating doon sa accountability and transparency. At nakita din natin na even when super limited yung funds ng Office of the Vice President, Office of Attorney Leni Robredo, and back then Vice President, she was able to still get a lot of bang out of very limited budget that she had, including wala siyang confidential funds na alam nyo na. Alright. Okay. So, ano lang yan ha? Yung confidential lang yung wala rin confidential fund to, di ba? Ang liit ng budget pero ang daming nagawa. At kitang-kita natin ito nung panahon ng pandemic. In fact, there were interesting times when Leni and Isko Moreno and other potential rivals were working together in the interest of the people, in the interest of the country. So mga kameta, if there is any top-level official in recent memory, obviously, there are many local government units officials that have done well. We can go to Iloilo, we can go to our own Baguio, we can go all across the country and we can go to Vico Soto's case. There are many LGU level success cases and encouraging cases and hopeful cases around the country. No question about it. Pagdating sa national level do mga kameta, pagdating sa national level, no question about it, Leni Robredo was the ultimate embodiment of good governance. No? At after 6, 7, 8 months of, I don't know, medyo travel vlogging, ano bang latest kay Ma'am Leni? Ayan na, nakukut-kut na itong, sunburn natin. Ganun pala pag natan ka, no? Ayan. No. And after what? After a long, mga kameta, after quite, let's say, well-deserved respite by former Vice President Leni Robredo, we could see that she's getting back into form, into action. So doon, finally, eto na, lumabas na yung mga semi-memoir. Diba yun yung sinasabi ko last year, kailangan ng memoir, kailangan ng reflection, kailangan ng rallying cry. No? And then, we also saw this announcement by both Leni Robredo and former vice presidential candidate and Senator Kiko Pangilinan na tuloy ang laban at they have the midterms in mind. There have been some reshuffling happening in the Liberal Party, but we know that Leni Robredo is way more than Liberal Party. She's way more than the quote-unquote Dilao group or gang or whatever you want to call it. She is definitely way more than that. No? And the pink movement was really a constellation of different galaxies. I mean, a constellation of different planetary systems. Progressives, centrists, liberals, even some conservatives who were not super happy about a potential unity team in office. So it was not just Dilawan, etc. Let's just be very clear about it. Given the merits and demerits of that whole political force or whatever is left of that force nowadays. So, having said that, mga kameta, kanina may na-tweet tayo kung saan sinabi natin na kailan naman tayo magkakaroon ng good governance fund. So, there was this interview a while ago, mga kameta, with Karen Davila and Senator Gatchalian. So, kudos to Senator Gatchalian for taking, interview on a very sensitive topic in a very highly emotionally charged environment. Marami pang mga, the dust has not fully settled on the Maharlika issue. There are a lot of misgivings. There are a lot of negative reaction online. More than a lot of negative reaction. Mostly negative reaction online. Kitang-kita natin na marami sa ating mga kababayan, they don't have very much confidence dito sa fund na yan. And please don't bring me the popularity rates of the president. I'm talking about an issue-to-issue basis. I mean, we clearly see that net negative yung ratings sa administration when handling inflation. I won't be surprised that, if you honestly ask people, most majority of our kababayan will have a thing or two to say about whether they feel fully confident about itong Maharlika Fund. No. So kanina sabi ko, di sana magkakaroon din tayo ng good governance fund balang araw para mag-focus din tayo sa institution building, making sure na modern yung ating institution. Kasi, mga kameta, kung tinignan mo yung institution ng Pilipinas, talagang pang-feudal ang sistema. Ito yung dynasty na in charge ng itong probinsya for the past 200 years, 50 years, whatever. Minsan kalaban pa nila isa pang dynasty sa dalawang feudal lord nag-aaway, sila yung in charge of this and that, yung mga bata nila in charge of barangay, yung isa governor, very feudal, very backward. Very pre-modern yung system. Now, if some of our kababayan like feudal, backward, whatever, ano na yan, aesthetic choice na nila yan. But the problem with that is feudalism also means a lot of traponess. So we really need an initiative to focus on modernizing our institutions, to bring us more in line with. Huwag naman tayo mangarap na right away mag-Norway, New Zealand level tayo. Kahit second world level lang. Sabi ko nga, kahit level lang, I don't know, I mean, level ng South Korea 20 years ago. Right? Even that is a huge improvement for the Philippines. No? Forget about Norway, New Zealand. It's not gonna happen anytime soon. Alright? Huwag tayong mangarap, huwag tayong feeling. Huwag natin pilitin. Alright? So, naiirita ako yung mga tao, sana kung nasa New Zealand si ganun. We're not New Zealand, we're not Norway. Let's just accept that. But we can be definitely way better than what we are. We can be at least what South Korea was 20 years ago. Or Japan was 40, 50 years ago, right? At certain modern institution building level, right? So let's aim for what's realistic and what we can do in the short to medium run, or at least in the next 10 to 15 years, diba? So, or at most rather. So having said that, so nung nag-post tayo ng ganito, nag-comment isa sa kaibigan natin si Enrico, who has been writing excellent stuff on the Maharlika Fund, and sabi niya, why not yung Angat Buhay? Why not ito na lang mechanism dyan? Again, I know this is gonna sound like a long shot. I saw a lot of criticism down there. Sabi nako, pag Angat Buhay, lumaki yung funds nila, mamaya ireretag yan, mamaya gagawa ng marites yan, mamaya gagawa ng issue yan, mamaya gagawa ng kalokohan yan, para lang to dismiss it. But my point is, something has to be done, di ba, mga kameta? And the point is, hindi naman pwede si LENI at ang Pink Movement hanggang, I'm not dismissing the great things that Angat Buhay has done for a lot of our kababayan. But my point is, we need really a kind of a national grassroots-driven movement for good governance and reform, and something that goes beyond 2022 elections, goes beyond Leni Robredo, goes beyond just this faction, that brand, that color, this and that. It has to stand for something. Hindi ko talaga na-coordinate yung may Tiffany, tapos bakit may Tiffany and pink din sila? Okay, mag-purple na ako isa. Anyway, may excuse lang tayo, masuot natin ito, matagal natin yung sayang naman, di ba? Anyway, no, mga kameta, I'm just saying this, di ba? There has to be a mechanism, maybe not Angat Buhay, maybe not Lenny, but there has to be a mechanism that provides funding and support na hindi corrupt, na may transparency, na may crowdfunding, na hindi lang nakasalalay doon sa mga gusto ng isang oligarch or dalawa, ay hindi yung mga ganang katrapuan. No, there has to be a fund because kailangan ng pera for organization and mobilization. Given na yan, guys. Let's just be brutally realistic about it. If you want to organize on a national scale, if you want to really bring about change, structural reforms, you need to invest, right? And that means you need resources. So you need a fund that pushes for grassroots reforms, structural reforms. And this could happen at the level of Bicol, at the level of Naga, at the level of Luzon, at the level of Luzvin, Mindanao. Like, it should happen at multiple levels, no? And my point is, I'm not suggesting one mechanism or one person or one party, but there should be something outside dun sa mga institution ng Estado natin. Because let's just be brutally honest, pagdating sa mga institution ng Estado natin, especially at national level, parang isa lang yung opposition natin dyan, di ba? Pinakita natin yan kahapon, mga kameta, di ba? Tignan mo yung voting kahapon sa Maharlika. No? Isa lang nag-no, ang dami nag-hanash, tapos nag-yes rin pala. Alright? And then, si Nancy Binay, na some were thinking she will kind of make a, nag-abstain na lang. Yung iba naman, nag-absent na lang. So, literally, you're just left with one person who said no. So, what's going on here? Right? So, you really have just one person representing a genuine opposition, or at least a conviction-based, principled opposition, right? There. So, ang laki ng problema mo dyan because as heroic as Riza Ontiveros' interventions have been, she's alone, right? And alone, there's just so much change you can do no matter how good or great you may be, right? All the great people we talk about in human history, whether from good side, bad side, conservative, liberal, whatever, none of them would have been great if not for the broader groupings, institutions, and forces of history that catapulted them into universal consciousness, right? You don't believe me? Read War and Peace by Tolstoy. Just the first 15 pages gets mo nang sinasabi ko. You don't need to read social science. Just read literature, you'll get what I'm saying. So there, for instance, Tolstoy talks about the role of the Grand Armée, the role of historical forces, etc., in making Napoleon Napoleon. Otherwise, Napoleon would have been just whatever, another Corsican nobody in France, right? France. So you need a mechanism for supporting good governance, right? Now, it doesn't have to be super billions of dollars, a la Maharlika Fund, although, you know, 4, 5, $10 billion is laughable in the world of sovereign wealth funds of 500 billion, $1 trillion, etc. No? Tingnan mo anong meron sa Norway, sa Saudi Arabia, those kinds of countries, no? At katulad ng sinabi natin kahapon, mga kamet, I'm not even sure that the Philippine Maharlika Fund is anywhere close to the standards that the Indonesian version of a sovereign investment fund has. Right? And by the way, the Indonesian sovereign fund is not named after a certain political legacy, right? It's not like New Order, Suharto New Order Investment Fund. Because that's what Maharlika Fund is, right? It clearly harkens back to the Marcos era. Clearly, right? So the investment fund of Indonesia is not called the New Order Investment Fund. Or I don't know, Sukarno, I don't know, neo-colonialist, whatever, right? It was not even named like something like Nusan, like Majapahit. Hindi na Majapahit. What was that? Panchasila. Ito yung mga basic principles were established by Sukar. No, hindi. Very professional. So, my point is, I don't know. Andyan na yung Maharlika Fund. So, anong gagawin natin? Tapos na Wala Isa lang talaga yung real opposition mo sa Senate. So, anong maasahan mo dyan? Diba? Anong maasahan mo dyan? So, there's just so much you can do. But, dapat, kaysa cynicism or just being negative or just throwing, the towel into the ring and say, so, dapat isipin mo long term. Because, there could be 10 more Maharlika Funds down the road. Alam mo na, diba? There could be many problems with Maharlika Fund, or maybe not. I mean, I also see the Bernie Sanders realism school of thought, because there was a time where Bernie Sanders, actually, a very progressive guy, endorsed Hillary Clinton. And many people were wondering, are you crazy? Why would you endorse a trapo? But this is what he said. At least with Hillary, we can hold their feet close to fire and hold her accountable. If a Trump won, good luck with that. And that's exactly what happened. When Trump won, boom. He indulged himself with just opposing whatever the other side stood for. That would not have been the case with Hillary Clinton. So anyway, so my point is, even if you have misgivings about the Maharlika Fund, the actual operation of Maharlika Fund will depend also on not only the formal laws, but also on social scrutiny, on public scrutiny. So if you have an active citizenship, you have an organized middle class, you have an organized masses, you have an informed people and electorate, not maybe today, but 3 years from now, 5 years from now, you can make sure that the Maharlika Fund as it stands doesn't turn out to be one MDB or whatever. Pangalawa, you want to make sure you have a movement that pushes for other forms, right? Other forms. Ayan na, yung mga pro-Trump, nandyan na. Ay, yung mga four more kawawa years. Anyway, 4 more years. Okay. Now, going back to this, so you also need kind of a fund, a movement, a kind of a mitochondria, if I can put it that way, a political mitochondria for mobilization nationwide on a sustained matter. Kasi hindi pwede madaan lang yan sa slogan, sa TikTok videos lang here and there, sa pag-good feels and good vibes here. I mean, those things are important individually, but you need something that strings them all together. And for that, you need a serious mechanism. So maybe ANGAT BUHAY Fund, I don't think they have anything like that, or they're probably not even planning on doing something else. But in something along those lines, mga kameta, is extremely important. Something like an ANGAT BUHAY Fund that stands for good governance reforms, initiatives, and who knows if opposition one day takes over the government, 2028, whatever, or there are more senators, LENI is there, Riza is there, BAM probably is there, whatever, Kiko is there, then they can collectively push for other initiatives that can counterbalance whatever negative externalities that may come out of Maharlika Fund. Nevertheless, hindi naman tayo partisan or bitter dito, so I just hope the Maharlika Fund will really deliver the best things that are out there. But given some inherent concerns about Maharlika Fund, given the current good governance or lack of good governance environment in the Philippines, then instead of just whining and attacking that, do something else. Come up with something else. And come up with a situation whereby you just don't have one senator saying no. Yung iba na lang nag-abstain or absent na lang. Yung iba ang daming hanash nag-yes rin pala. That you have 10 more Rizal Tiveros there in the Senate at least. And potentially even one president there down the road. For that, you need a good governance movement. For a good governance movement, you need organization mobilization. For organization mobilization, you need sources and funding. And the funds can be crowdfunded. So if each of supporters, let's say, isipin mo, 15 million ang bumoto kay LENI. Each of them give 10 pesos lang. Makana yan? 115 million pesos na yan, right? Each of them give 100 pesos, then so on and so forth, right? Can you imagine? Obviously, it's not going to be equal because we're looking at people with different financial capacity. So, yun yung sinasabi natin mga kameta. Yes, there are going to be concerns with red tagging. There are going to be concerns about fake news na naman, yung mga walang hiyang trolls na yan. Yes, but you have to fight the fight. Otherwise, wala na. Finish na. Uwi na lang tayo. May nanalo na. Tapos na ang usapan, di ba? Mga ka-Maharlika Fund dyan. Mga ka-Solid North dyan. Alright? Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? You have to back up a good governance rhetoric with a good governance movement, and that cannot happen without the actual mobilization on the ground, and that cannot happen if you don't have a good governance fund. So I think it's serious time to consider new serious things. Not just mga, whiplash responses here and there, kind of a flash in the pan here and there, kind of scattershot here and there. No. Hindi pwedeng ganun. Something serious has to come out if the opposition and the other side wants to really push for good governance in this country. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, in the US, I'm not a supporter of the super PAC movement and all of that. I think it's very prone to a lot of, let's call it legal corruption, if you can put it that way, and a lot of undue influence by lobbies, corporations. But the super PACs or similar funding initiatives in the US can be used also to punish people who push for certain laws or initiatives that your group deems as wrong. So if you're well-funded and well-organized, you can mobilize against trapo politicians who voted for bad initiatives. Or you can mobilize correspondingly for good politicians who voted for good initiatives or against bad initiatives. So hindi pwede hanggang slogan lang tayo mga kameta. Hindi lang pwede hanggang pa-cute lang, pa-good feels lang tayo. Hindi lang pwede yung every 6 years lang lalabas ang mga tao. The great moment, there is drone and we're watching each other holding hands and this and that. And then, the next month, wala na, PTSD na, hindi na ako ang gusto, forget about it, magmamigrate na ako, ganun. Like, good luck sa bansa natin, mga purong ganyan na lang tayo. Good change, not just change. Tatay Digong brought change, but, we can talk a lot about whether that was a good change or not. But good change, transformational change, structural reforms, hindi mangyayari mga kameta kung walang sustained organization and active citizenship. That is key, mga kameta. As simple as that. Booyaka siya! Alright? So, tignan natin ang mangyari dito mga kameta. If ANGAT, BUHAY, etc., they're gonna move in the right direction. Let's look at that. At the same time, let me make it clear. I think, what should I say? I wish the best for the country, right? Whoever is the president, etc., I hope that the things that they're doing will really work for the interest of the country. I'm gonna watch the Maharlika Fund. I'm gonna check how it's gonna work. I really sincerely hope it will really deliver the best for our country, and hopefully, God willing, the investment situation globally will be much better in the coming years. I also hope that the Maharlika Fund will not lead to some of the serious problems that a lot of the critics or former experts and officials have been raising. We can talk about that separately in different vlog. For instance, an ex-BSP governor talked about this could lead to higher taxes, this could lead to this and that, especially if there's... I still wish the best for any fund for the Filipino people. As simple as that. At the same time, you cannot just... Hope is not a policy, as I always say. Hope is not a policy. You have to have countermeasures. You have to have plan B. You have to have countervailing forces just in case things don't work in the right direction. So just whining online, just attacking the Maharlika Fund, just making jokes about it or conspiracy theory, that's not going to solve anything. It's just going to make people more cynical and make people willing to give up on the country or leave the country or both. Something concrete has to be done. Lenny got 15 million votes. If each of her supporters just gives 10 pesos, she already has a good seed money to get a movement started, right? And good project started. And from there, who knows, it could snowball. But things have to start somewhere, mga kameta. Nothing is easy pagdating sa politika, especially kung ang lalim ng ugat ng trapo politics sa bayan mo. And I don't want to blame one family, one dynasty, etc. This is a systemic crisis we have in our country. We want the Philippines to be better. And as I said, whoever is the president, I wish him or her the best. At the same time, we have to do our part, and we have to look at different initiatives to push the government to do the right thing and to encourage and support the government also when they're doing the right thing. Alright, mga kameta? So on that note, thank you very much. Maraming salamat, guys. Thank you very much sa lahat ng mga nag-comment dito. Ayan, dami ng mga Teresita, Terrenal. Ayan. Ayan na si Just Your Average Joe, Knight Armor. Ayan, mga pro-Trumper dyan, nandyan na rin. Ayan, thank you very much dyan sa... Ayan, thank you very much sa lahat ng mga sumusuporta sa atin. Ayan, si Amigo Salvatore is also there. Yan, thank you very much also sa mga komenta natin dito sa kabila. Sa kabila talaga. Thank you kay Riz Ani, Ma'am Justin Lumberio, Eds Clavel, Don Liamzon, Brav Piet, Marl Escobar, Angeline Simons, JC Sorenses, Ranil Noronio. Yan, thank you so much sa inyong lahat. Kay Manay She, Eden Olonan, of course. Thank you so much also, ma'am. Kay Jeff Espirito. Yan, kay JC Capanias. Yan, Michelle Andrea. Yan. Yan, talaga marami nagmamahal sa atin, mga kameta. Thank you very much. And, well, I saw Ma'am Lenny actually, Attorney Lenny actually responded to one of my tweets about the need for good governance fund. Maybe she can check it out. Maybe I might give her idea. Again, let me be very clear. No color, pink, whatever, has monopoly on patriotism or good governance initiatives for the country. Whether supporter ka ng kahit sino. Lacson, Isko, I don't know. Whoever, Tulfo, whatever. We all want the best for our country, but we cannot just wish it. Hope and wish is not a policy. They're not a policy, right? We need actual initiatives on the ground. Now, in a world, had I had the 15 million votes, I would have mobilized that very aggressively after the elections. Not to create political opposition. No, really push for some governance reform, serious governance reform. As of now, someone else is in that position, so maybe they can leverage it. But everyone has their own contribution to make. And in my case, again, I'm not necessarily against this administration or that administration. I look at policies on a case-to-case basis. You saw that we said many good things about when good things happen on foreign policy. You saw my on this hand, on the other hand, when it comes to Maharlika issue. But I hope the Maharlika initiative will deliver the best for the Filipino people. And in the meantime, I hope the opposition also looks at ways to make sure that they have alternative mechanisms to push for good governance in the country and to ensure that we have mobilized active citizenry. On that note, maraming salamat, mga kameta. Thank you very much. God bless. Adios.